Finally, Judge Kenneth Bell has made a significant ruling. He sided with 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports in their legal dispute against NASCAR. This decision challenges the legitimacy of NASCAR's new charter agreement for the 2025 season. The main point of contention is how NASCAR handles its charters, which are essentially licenses that allow teams to compete in the NASCAR Cup Series. Teams argue the NASCAR system is restrictive and unfair. To understand what happened, let's break it down step by step. First, 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports filed a lawsuit against NASCAR, claiming that its charter agreements violated antitrust laws. A preliminary injunction was granted, giving these teams temporary relief. This allowed Front Row Motorsports to purchase a charter from Stewart Racing without NASCAR's approval. For those who don't know, a charter is critical for teams because it guarantees them a spot in the races and ensures they receive a share of the prize money. NASCAR didn't take this lightly and filed a motion to delay the injunction. They argued that allowing this injunction to go into effect would harm their ability to manage the sport. Judge Bell reviewed NASCAR's concerns, but ultimately denied their request for a delay. This means the injunction is now in place, giving 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports the ability to act on their charter plans for the 2025 season. Here's why this is important. NASCAR's charter system is like a closed club. Teams need NASCAR's approval to buy, sell, or transfer charters. The court's decision disrupts this structure, giving teams more freedom to make deals without NASCAR's interference. For Front Row Motorsports, this is a win because they can now finalize their purchase of a charter from Stewart Racing. This ensures their participation in the 2025 Cup Series. But the story doesn't end here. There's another layer to this case. While Front Row Motorsports has the green light to proceed, 23XI Racing still faces hurdles. Judge Bell ruled that 23XI Racing must file a separate motion if they want to purchase a charter from Stewart Racing. This means more legal proceedings are on the horizon. The judge emphasized that each situation is unique, so he can't automatically extend the same ruling to both teams. One of the key arguments in this case is the release to race clause in NASCAR's 2025 charter agreement. This clause essentially forces teams to give up their right to sue NASCAR for antitrust violations if they sign the agreement. The judge strongly criticized this clause, calling it unfair and potentially illegal, and Judge Bell suggested that NASCAR's clause is similarly flawed. This clause puts teams in a tough spot. If they sign the charter agreement, they lose their right to challenge NASCAR's rules. If they don't sign, they can't participate in the races. This creates a catch-22 situation, which Judge Bell believes violates antitrust laws. His ruling is a blow to NASCAR's efforts to maintain control over the sport. But NASCAR isn't giving up yet. They plan to appeal the court's decision, but the timeline for this appeal is still unclear. If NASCAR succeeds, they could overturn the injunction and regain control over charter transfers. For now, though, 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports have the upper hand. Teams are pushing back against the sanctioning body, demanding more transparency and fairness. This case could set a precedent for how NASCAR interacts with teams in the future. If the court ultimately sides with the teams, it could lead to significant changes in the sport's governance. While the legal fight continues, there's also a practical side to consider. The 2025 season is approaching fast, and teams need clarity to prepare. The current uncertainty makes it challenging for teams to plan their budgets, sign drivers, and build cars. NASCAR's appeal could further delay these decisions, creating more headaches for everyone involved. One interesting detail from the court documents is an exchange between NASCAR President Steve Phelps and Front Row Motorsports' Jerry Freeze. In September, Phelps reportedly assured Freeze that Front Row's purchase of a charter from Stewart Racing would be approved. However, NASCAR changed its stance after Front Row filed the lawsuit. This contradiction raises questions about NASCAR's consistency and fairness in handling charter agreements. Now, this decision could open the door for other teams to join the lawsuit. Many industry insiders are speculating about the potential ripple effects if NASCAR's appeal against this decision fails. If more teams decide to attach themselves to the lawsuit, it could create a united front against NASCAR. Historically, one of NASCAR's strengths in negotiations has been the division among teams. Larger teams like Hendrick Motorsports have different priorities and budgets compared to smaller teams, making it hard for all chartered organizations to agree on collective actions. This lack of unity has given NASCAR significant leverage in negotiations, but the recent ruling has the potential to change that dynamic. The possibility of other teams joining the lawsuit is a hot topic among fans. Some argue that teams should have taken a stand earlier instead of waiting for legal precedents to be set. Others believe that it's better late than never, as a collective effort could lead to meaningful changes in the sport. The language used by Kessler, fighting for a more competitive and fair sport for everyone involved, is central to this discussion. A sport can only truly be competitive if every team, regardless of size or budget, has an equal opportunity to succeed. This case is not just about legalities, but also about the principles of fairness and equality. If the injunction stands, it could force NASCAR to revisit its charter agreement and address the concerns of its teams. Such a development would mark a significant shift in the balance of power between NASCAR and its teams. The legal implications of this case are vast. If NASCAR loses its appeal, it could set a precedent that other teams could use to challenge the organization's practices. This could lead to broader changes in how NASCAR operates, potentially benefiting teams and fans alike. For years, NASCAR has enjoyed a dominant position in the sport, often making decisions that teams had little choice but to accept. A successful challenge to this status quo could empower teams to negotiate better terms, creating a more balanced and equitable environment. The timing of this legal battle is also worth noting. As the year comes to a close, we are all discussing this issue over their holiday gatherings, making it a topic of interest beyond the usual racing circles. If the ruling is upheld, it could lead to significant changes in NASCAR's operations. Teams that have long felt sidelined in negotiations might finally have a chance to voice their concerns and push for better terms. This could also attract new sponsors and investors, as a fairer system would likely make the sport more appealing to external stakeholders. NASCAR for decades has operated with significant autonomy, making decisions that were often final and uncontested by the teams. This centralized control has allowed them to maintain a consistent product on the track, but it's also created frustrations among smaller teams who feel overlooked. The fact that 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports have taken such a bold step is evidence of a shift in how teams view their relationship with the governing body. Finally, it's worth considering how this case might influence NASCAR's long-term strategy. If they're forced to make significant concessions, it could alter their approach to governance and decision-making. They might prioritize collaborations with teams and stakeholders, recognizing that the success of the sport depends on everyone working together. Now, if you've enjoyed this video so far, then remember to drop a like and also smash that subscribe button for more upcoming uploads.